Hi there and welcome to today's vlog. This is going to be, I'm pretty sure, the last vlog of 2020, and what a year it has been. Sue and I were out walking on Sunday, and I said to Sue, do you think we're going to get any snow this winter? And she said, well, I'm pretty sure we will do. And lo and behold, we woke up this morning to see a covering of snow outside the house. Sadly, it's mainly gone. The temperature's risen and it's melted away, but it was nice to see a bit of snow. I know it causes some issues and some problems, but I love to see snow. I'd really like a big downfall at some stage, but we will see. I want to quote to you from a book I've just finished reading by a guy called Jack Jones. I may have mentioned another book by him that I'd read recently, and I read his book, which was a kind of historical novel. He's a Welshman. It's based in Wales mainly, and I so enjoyed the book that I noticed at the front of the book it would mention some other books that he'd written, including an autobiography. So I bought the autobiography, and here it is, Unfinished Journey by Jack Jones. And I've since discovered, since I finished this, that he wrote some more, another couple of autobiographies. So I'm hoping to be able to get hold of those and read them. But this particular little passage I want to quote is, well, he's brought up in Merthyr Tydfil, and his parents and quite a lot of his own family still live there at this point. But he and his wife and children live elsewhere, and he's visiting his parents and his family. He loves to be with his family, and as he makes his way with his wife to catch the bus back home, there's a bit of a tug, because he loves to be with his family, yet he's leaving them. And it says this: in silence, Laura, that's his wife, and I walk down to where the bus is waiting to put 24 miles between us and Mum and Dad. Still, it is also waiting to take us to where there is love waiting. Each time I think of that, think of how greetings make up for partings, it, well, makes me feel certain that God's greeting will more than make up for the parting with all that this world holds. So there's a sadness at parting his family, but also a looking forward to being reunited with his children when he gets home. So there's that love that he's leaving behind, but a love that's waiting. And he thinks every time this happens about the love and the welcome that we will receive from God himself when we enter into his kingdom after we leave this earthly life, if our faith is in Jesus Christ. And I thought that's a really interesting insight into the whole aspect of what it is to come to the end of our earthly life and to enter into the very presence of God. Anyway, another interesting, hopefully interesting thing, I was doing a bit more sorting out, and I came across this article. It says, "Too set to start ministry training." And the article is from the Eastern Evening News. That's in Norfolk or Norwich, on Friday, September the 18th, 1987. So to some of us, that's not all that long ago. To others, maybe that's a lifetime away. And it's two young men who are leaving the area to start training for the Methodist ministry, one of which is none other than Steve Clark, going off to Bristol. The other guy, and I was surprised because I couldn't remember this, is a guy called Jonathan Hussler. Now, some of you, if you're Methodist, that name may ring a bell, because he's now the secretary of the Methodist Conference, which is a very esteemed position, quite a very responsible position in Methodism. I did drop him an email with a scan of this, but I haven't heard any reply, so who knows, I may hear from him. So it just shows you that here are two men setting off on a similar journey, but took them in very different directions. I never had any desire to be in a kind of position of authority or whatever within Methodism. I was called by God to being a pastor and minister of a local congregation. So just a way of showing you we never know how things will work out. And with that regard, I wonder how you look back on 2020. What do you feel as you look back over the events of the year? For some of you, maybe it's been a really, really hard year, and maybe you're still feeling that. Maybe you've lost a loved one, or there's been issues, anxieties, concerns, health issues. It's been really tough. And then how do you look forward to 2021? Is there some new hope, a hope of a better year? Do you have dreams about what might happen in 2021, or are you still feeling really concerned and anxious? Have you heard of a lady called Minnie Louise Haskins? In the year 1912, she published, self-published, privately published a book of poems called The Desert. And in that book of poems was one particular poem which came to the attention of a young Princess Elizabeth, who is now our Queen, has been for many, many years, hasn't she? In fact, for the whole of my lifetime and beyond. When she was aged 13, Princess Elizabeth, as she was, or as she was then known, handed to her father, who was, I'm not very good at history, but I have to look it up, George VI. He was the king. A poem written by Minnie Louise Haskins. And he was so taken by it that he used part of it in his Christmas radio broadcast on the BBC to what was then the British Empire. And that poem was so struck the hearts of the people who heard it that it's become one of the most oft-quoted poems or pieces of poetry in the last century, and still today is so meaningful. Because obviously in 1939 our country had just entered a war with Germany, so there was all sorts of uncertainties about the way forward. And on my wall in my office I have a lovely decorated extract, or the words that King George VI used on that Christmas broadcast. And it's still just as relevant today as we look to a new year with all its unknowns. How do we face it? Let me just read this to you. At the gate of the year. I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, give me a light, that I may tread safely into the unknown. And he replied, go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That shall be to you better than light and safer than a known way. It's natural, isn't it, for us to want to know what is coming up, what the future holds, will we be secure? But that poem reminds us that better than knowing is, even in the unknown, the darkness, if we put our hands into the hands of God, we have security, we can have confidence, for God is with us. So I pray that you might know the comfort, the strength, the peace, the joy of God's presence, that you would put your hand into the hand of God and walk with him into all that 2020 has in store for each of us, for you and for me. So God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today. Enjoy New Year's Eve, and pray for God's blessing upon you as you walk into a new year hand in hand with the God who loves us.